Hi everybody, I'm Phil Fatica and welcome to the Millcreek Government Channel. Today, a guest that you're going to love to listen to because she has so many good things to tell you. Let me introduce you to Katrina Smith. Katrina is the President and CEO of DevelopErie. Thank you for making time for us.
Thank you for having me today,
You are
Phil.
busy from can't see in the morning to can't see at night.
This is true.
Okay.
I've got a lot going on.
Tell us about DevelopErie. Where are you right now?
Well, we are actually in a retrenching mode. We've obviously had a significant amount of changes as an organization in the last several months with the departure of our former president and CEO. In addition, we have some new board leadership, some new board members on 7 of our affiliate boards. So we are essentially stepping back, looking at some self-assessment. What are we really good at? What resources and capabilities do we have? And really refocusing those core competencies and really how we can engage in the community and the types of value we can provide.
So DevelopErie's role in the community is currently then?
To be a facilitator and a coordinator of bringing some projects to fruition.
I want you to facilitate and I want you to coordinate. How do I get in contact with you? How do I, what's the process? Phil's want to do something and I know you can help me, so how do I contact you?
You can call us, you can go on our website, we're on Facebook as well. A lot of our referrals come from various businesses or service providers in the community, whether they're in the economic development system, whether they're accountant, attorney, banker, or real estate developer. We get referrals from all sorts of directions.
Call us, the number, the website is what?
814-899-6022, and our website is www.developerie.com.
Okay, and you're physically located though at?
Knowledge Park, right off the Penn State Barron campus.
Yeah, so you got a lot of things going on. Tell me about the affiliates, that's interesting.
Yes.
What do you mean affiliates?
So DevelopErie is essentially a branding mechanism for Economic Development Corporation and 6 of the affiliate organizations.
Okay.
So the Economic Development Corporation actually employs our staff, and the staff then carries out the programs for the other 6 affiliates. So we have 3 public authorities that we manage: the Erie County General Authority, the Erie County Industrial Development Authority, and the Erie County Community Services Financing Authority. And in addition to that, we also have, besides the Economic Development Corporation, 3 other not-for-profits that we manage the activities for: the Greater Erie Industrial Development Corporation, IDCO Inc., and the Enterprise Development Fund.
A lot of abbreviations there.
Yes, sir.
Not so many acronyms, but a lot of abbreviations for sure. You handled those very well, by the way.
Thank you.
That's great. So, above all that then, you have a board of directors, people that say, here's where we should be going or not going. Is that true?
That is true. We actually have 7 boards of directors.
Okay.
Combined, there's over 60 board members, very representative of the community.
Okay.
We've got bankers, attorneys, lawyers, business owners, entrepreneurs. We don't really have a lot of public officials, albeit the county executive and mayor are both ex officio members of our boards.
As they should be, I think.
As they should be. And also county council plays a role in the appointments of the authority board members.
So let's move on to the kind of a quasi-government entity. I mean, yeah, government enters into it, but let's stand back. I'm not going to micromanage this. You comfortable with that? What did I just said? We're going to stand back. We're not going to micromanage.
I am comfortable with that, being that the vision for the community and the work that we do oftentimes plays out over multiple years, multiple administration changes at the state, federal, and local levels.
Right. Yeah, we're going to see that. I think most people agree on the Bayfront with the site there that's now having the hotel, and the Scott's
site
coming up, and Tom Kennedy with the Cobblestone Hotel. All of that will play out over many years, and in fact could be many different administrations. So thank you for saying that. So what are then your core areas of business? I'm looking to, I got 19 million. I just won the Powerball lottery, so
oh, perfect.
Come on,
great.
help.
You need to buy some land.
Yes,
then.
we do, and I want to go. And what are you the people to go to?
We are.
Okay.
We actually own over 750 acres of industrial land across Erie County.
Okay.
Again, it's from West County to East County, Center City, etc. We also manage several standalone or multi-tenant industrial buildings, a lot of which we are liquidating, a couple which we have under contract currently for sale. And then we also are the developer and manager in partnership with Penn State University of Knowledge Park and the facilities there.
When do you sleep?
Well, that's
You.
just a part of what I said. I haven't told you everything else we do, Phil.
Well, you're extremely busy, that's for darn sure.
Yeah,
So you have that public partner, and you have the real estate, and I'm looking to the notes here, and developing the real estate services, and you got land recycling programs. You want to touch on that?
Yes. So we are somewhat known to be the brownfield specialists in Erie County.
What do you mean by that, brownfield?
So a brownfield is essentially a former site that was used for industrial purposes. A lot of sites across Erie County, just like a lot of old industrial communities in the United States, have land or have dilapidated buildings or even active buildings that oftentimes have some form of contamination.
Okay.
Around here, we see a lot of soil contamination, arsenic, lead, etc. And so then we will go in and assist a company with a phase 1 and phase 2 environmental assessment, whereby we will characterize what those concerns are at the site. We then work with the DEP, Department of Environmental Protection, to come up with a cleanup plan, and then we oftentimes take it through what's known in Pennsylvania since 1995 as the Pennsylvania Voluntary Cleanup. Where essentially we will take that property, clean it up to certain standards that the state has, whereby we then get a release on the title for any future users of that site. So essentially we close that gap from the previous sins that were committed at the site, and then can provide some clarity and blanket coverage going forward for any potential buyer or reuser of that site.
Yeah, I like the previous sins. That's well said. Do you ever think you do this as economics, money, financing, getting into government and some private, that's always attracted you? You're not going to sit in the back of the room and observe. You're going to be out there, I want to be in charge?
Me personally, or the organization, or both?
No, you personally.
Me personally, I like to make a difference in my community, and you step back and you assess where are the needs, where are the situations that need addressed, and what role do I have to play in that personally, as an individual. And I really have a heart for this community. I am raising my family here. I've lived here longer than I've lived anywhere, albeit I'm not a native.
Where are you from?
Actually born in Titusville Elementary School in Franklin.
Well, you're a native.
Presque Isle and Waldemere were my summer vacations for many years. So.
That's right.
Yes, yes.
Okay, you're talking about, we're talking to Katrina Smith. Katrina is the president and CEO of DevelopErie. And you had a play in many of the very successful business activities that have taken place over the last number of years. Most recently, the potato chip factory out in Waterford. Chalk that one up. That's a great one. What about Lord Manufacturing?
Yes.
That's a biggie.
That is a biggie, and
More
it was
big,
a
I think,
heavy
than people
lift.
understand.
Yes,
No?
and I can attest to that, as I sat in a lot of the backdoor conversations that were held in 2010-11 when that deal was structured. We essentially had a $15 million gap to fill in competition with North Carolina and or Ohio.
And 600 to 800 jobs.
That's correct. And when you looked at the economic impact analysis of their being located in Erie and Crawford counties, it actually equated to 7% of our economic impact activity for this entire region.
That's a big number.
It's a huge number. And so we then began getting extremely creative on addressing what Lord's concerns were with staying, what they needed to receive to stay, the types of assistance, and we were able to package, again with state and local assistance, a solution to keep them here and help close that gap. And 5 of our entities actually had a role to play in that.
Yeah, very successful.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, the older Lord property on West 12th, are you having a play in what's going to become of that?
We are. Actually, that property is in our name. It was titled over to us in June of 2013. Lord will be completely out of that facility here in May, and then our plans are to remove the asbestos in the facility and proceed with the demolition. We are currently marketing the site for sale, and we actually have some interested parties, and we're continuing those conversations.
Yeah. This takes a long time to do. I know. It just doesn't happen on a weekend. So I'm going to come to you, and I need some money.
So
can you loan me some money for my business?
That we can.
At the friendly 0% interest?
Well, I don't know about 0.
Okay, I'll accept 1.
You'll accept 1. Then you need to go to the state. No. Actually, we have several financing programs through our affiliates. And one of the funds, the Enterprise Development Fund, is a 501c3. And we are registered with the U.S. Department of Treasury at a certified development financial institution.
Okay.
And so a lot of the financing that we do is closing the gaps, and it's targeted into high poverty, low census tract areas. And so we have grown that fund from $800,000 up to over $7 million in assets in the last 5 years.
Wow.
We now have over 45 loans in our portfolio, a full pipeline, and our interest rates aren't low. We're typically coming in closing that gap in riskier deals or deals where there's lacking collateral, because we can be creative in the positioning and what we will take for collateral, and working with our banking partners.
When you're doing this, do other counties have this? Or is what you're doing, I guess I'm asking, is what you're doing similar to what's going on in counties or regions throughout the United States?
Yeah, I would say it's not dissimilar. There are various entities that do various types of lending. Even within the economic development system here throughout Erie County, you've got the county redevelopment authority and their funding is geared towards something different than our enterprise fund, and a lot of times we will co-invest together. Same thing with the city; they have their own loan fund. The Northwest Commission is more of a regional entity; they have another small loan fund. But we all work within conjunction with one another. But not only that, we look for different types of deals. And what's really neat about the fund and the growth that we've had and experienced in that in the last 5 years is that we will not just do manufacturing. And historically, a lot of the programs in the economic development system have been geared only on manufacturing. And so we've essentially opened that up. We look at small businesses that are retail. We'll look at not-for-profits. But our size of loan is anywhere from $10,000 up to $500,000. And our rates aren't low because, again, we're taking the risk and we're closing that gap. So our average rate is 6.67%.
Could you say that? I'm glad you touched on the industrial development. Where in Erie County, Crawford, I don't care, where do we stand with that industrial development? I mean, are more entrepreneurs moving toward that industrial brick and mortar thing?
I would say that the companies that we have here are doing well, and we've seen that in the real estate market. Real estate's been one of the areas in my purview since my 9-year tenure at DevelopErie. And for the first time in my 9 years in this real estate market, we've seen it completely transform. 5 years ago, if you came and you were looking for a building, I don't care if it was 50,000, 150,000, we could list 5 to 8 buildings at least that would fit that criteria. Now we're lucky to find a building that has some type of industrial, demeanor to it, and so we're starting to see land move again. We have 2 land sales right now that are currently pending, which is great for the community.
That is absolutely great.
Yeah. And we're seeing that echoed as well on the financing side. So in addition to our enterprise fund, we also provide real estate financing through the Pennsylvania Industrial Development Authority. One of our affiliates, IDCO Inc., provides the third-party guarantee to the outstanding principal of those. Our PETA, we've had several PETAs that we've approved in the last several months. We have also done some bond issues with some not-for-profits here locally. We just approved Emergicare last week. We have another one scheduled to come before the board in April.
Emergicare is going to be moving.
They're actually expanding. Yeah,
expanding to, I can't think of the building right now. I know where they're going.
Between Peach and Sassafras.
Yeah, it's changed. It slipped my mind. About a month or so ago in Davos, they had a huge economic forum, and everybody gets together and says, here's what the forecast for the world's economic development is, and here's where we are. Any take on that? A bunch of people guessing, or they kind of get it right sometimes. They
do get it right sometimes, but you can never underestimate the political frameworks that change. But in addition to that, the world implications when you're looking at terrorism and some of these wars that we're fighting, and a lot of strife across the globe. Be that as it may, that ends up affecting supply chains, costs of commodities, etc. So it's good to have predictions, but we also know that they're subject to change based upon a lot of those geopolitical climates.
The stock market, not always necessarily an indicator of what you do, but certainly it's the common denominator that people look at. The Dow Jones is, and Apple's replaced. Is it AT&T, I think, in there now, because Apple's a big kahuna right now. But does that play into what people perceive you to do? Oh, the stock market's down, but my stock is up, so I'm really happy. The heck with the rest of those scoundrels.
Right.
And my hedge fund is doing very well, and blah, blah, blah. Does that play into your view of what's going on in Erie?
Not necessarily. I think we have to look at the view in Erie as more on a regional level,
okay.
And really focus on, what are the markets that we're strong in, what are the markets that our industrial base is supplying to
Okay.
or engaged with, and those are really the areas that we need to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Obviously, if the community or the global markets are strong, that's a good sign. But I also think we can't lose sight of supporting the companies that we have here, and as a development organization, that's really where we do a lot of self-reflection, saying, what do our region's manufacturers need, what do our region's entrepreneurs need, and how can we support them in those efforts and help facilitate additional investment in the community.
How big is GE in your thinking? I mean, biggest employer for 25, 30 years, 40 years, yeah.
Obviously, that is another concern, and
Yeah.
something that we want to make sure that they're, happy and supported, and that, as a community, we're addressing any needs that they may have, as an economic development system. If there's, certain services or programs that we can provide to assist them in continued development here, we need to do that. And our organization has. We've managed, in the last several years, a total of $3.5 million in state grants to support GE in some of their research and development.
You look back over the years and you look at the number of, they look at the way the largest employers in the region, and the GE always tops out. But now you're getting into Walmart. Now you're getting into healthcare providers. A trend that is seen in areas our size, or we're unique to that. Healthcare, certainly, I can understand.
I think healthcare, yeah, and being that we're, an aging population in Pennsylvania historically, I anticipate that trend is going to continue. Obviously, the continued changes in the healthcare insurance is going to drive that as well. So, albeit it's growing, we're also seeing some consolidation just within the medical practices and how they're functioning. And you're starting to see, instead of doctors going out and having one or two physician office, they're starting to consolidate services into more of a like a la carte type of structure, where you get several specialties locating in one plaza or one business office, and we're seeing that across Erie. Obviously, having the educational system here from a university and college perspective is helping support that as well.
Yeah, I know we have 4 for sure, but if you count Meadville and Allegheny, we have 5, which is a big number for a community our size.
It is.
Okay, pretend the pen is the crystal ball, and the obvious question is, the future of DevelopErie is? Looking in the crystal ball here.
Sure. Our future, I'm going to say, we've been around for over 50 years.
Yeah. I don't think people realize that.
We were actually founded by several old business names in the Erie communities, the Baldwins, the Bundys, etc. And they all came together and said, we as business owners want to drive this economy forward, so how can we create a network to support business development? And essentially they put their own cash on the table, and that's how our organization was started by the business community over 50 years ago. And so that being said, we've seen a lot of cyclical trends within economic development, and even within our organization, where we'll have a lot of assets at one time, we'll liquidate them, and then we have a lot of cash, and then we can go out and buy more strategic assets.
Normal activity. Just
normal activity.
Yeah.
I would say that we're in a position right now where, as a result of some of our aggressive approaches to development and project development in the last several years, we are now back to being, I want to say, risk adverse, because we are willing to take calculated risk, but we're retrenching. We've spent a lot of financial and staff resources on several parts of the Erie Inland Port Initiative. They're at various stages now currently, and it's not all lost effort, but we are also realizing that we are in a different place.
Yeah, you took the question right out of me. The present status of the inland port is being reassessed, and let me, lately in the news, a Canadian firm is going to push through a huge wire across the lake, and happy times to hear again. Are you part of that?
We are not. I mean, we've had multiple conversations with the developer. We actually, spoke with them about some of our land holdings and if there was ways to partner together on them trying to get the route that they needed. But we are not financially or from a real estate development engaged with them in any type of formal partnership.
With the lake sitting out there, and I know this is public knowledge that there's been a talk about having Erie be a part of the windmill big globe of supplying energy through wind out in the lake. Would that be what your scope is? Would you say let us help you with that?
If there's a role to play, by all means, we would like to be involved. If there's financing or real estate development, and if there's a role to play, sure, we would consider that. Really, we recognize that we don't necessarily need to be the lone wolf out there leading all these initiatives. We'll play a role if and when it makes sense.
When you say out there, how far out do you go? When you say
Erie
region?
County. Erie County.
You don't stray into New York, Ohio, different laws, different rules, different...
Yeah, that's part of it. Also, I do want to mention that we do have a strategic relationship in place with the Conneaut Port Authority, and a lot of that is related to our land holdings in the Albion area. Being right on the Bessemer Lake Erie short line, there's direct connectivity to that asset, being the Conneaut Port, and so that is a strategic relationship that we do have outside of Erie County. But for all intents and purposes, most of our development work is focused in Erie County. We have done some loans through our enterprise fund in some of the neighboring counties, and that is something that we are willing to consider.
I'm looking at the notes, and you have great notes about what you've done, and I'm glad you're here because I don't think most people know this is what you do. I mean, your reach is quite extensive and necessary.
Yes.
And sometimes it doesn't always go the way you want it, but you pick yourself up and you get right back at it again. This is Katrina Smith. She is the president and CEO of DevelopErie. By the way, you changed your name. You used to be known as
Economic Development Corporation of Erie County, and we're still known
still
as
there,
that.
Yeah,
it's still a legal entity. DevelopErie is just a branding initiative.
Just a little bit easier, I think, to remember than all that alphabet soup that you get going. That's for darn sure. We've talked about land recycling, and we've talked about the real estate services which you provide. You are a public-private partnership. You have that going on for you. Is there anything that I didn't touch on before I come back to something else here? Anything that I neglected to ask?
No, it was a good summary. I appreciate the questions. I mean, for the community, I think it's just important to remember that as an organization, our core areas of competency and what we really provide to this community are the real estate development. We are extremely creative in how we look at deals, the financing, obviously, and then also grant management. We have $12 million of grants that we currently manage for projects that we're working on or for third parties, and we do have that capacity in-house. If there are other organizations or projects that need assistance with navigating or seeking out grant funding sources and kind of going through the red tape, a lot of times they require prevailing wages and all various types of reporting. We know that, and we can help navigate through that.
My vote. Red tape.
It.
Yeah. Let's talk about not the brick and mortar and the real estate. Let's talk about the virtual world. You have a company in Erie that says we'd like to bring high-speed fiber optics, blazing speed to everybody. Is that on your view too? To say, hey guys, yeah.
It is on our view.
This is where this is where we're going.
That is correct. Well, and obviously, being that we own business parks and land in business parks, that is the trend, and they need to have that availability to manage their businesses and to continue to grow them. So whether it be in Fairview Business Park with a manufacturer or a knowledge park where a lot of the companies are focused on technology, we need to have that capability to be able to compete with other markets.
People will say, it's tough here. Hey, look, we've just been through this winter of our discontent. 18 below going to work? Come on, give me a break, You haven't seen the sun in 3 years. And I say, yeah, but if you go down to South Carolina, or if you go to Texas and New Mexico or certain parts of California, man, the money will just be flowing out of that horn like you can't believe. How do you dispel that myth that you can do well here? Don't let the weather throw you a curve. Hey, it's cloudy in Chicago, it's cloudy in Buffalo, it's cloudy in Boston.
That's right.
And Boston got dumped on this year. So, or that old stereotype still exists?
I would say to some degree it still exists, but I also think we've made a lot of progress in promoting, you know, what we are known for, and being a high-class center of manufacturing excellence, having very strong work ethic, you know, and having that high-skilled level employee, and that's part of the reason KLN has looked at coming here. That's part of the reason Lord ended up staying. They knew they were going to have a difficult time finding that caliber of precision and skilled workforce in other locations.
How much does education play into that?
Education is a huge part.
Be realizing that, you know, nice to talk about it, but you have to get that,
Absolutely, and I think part of the challenge too is that manufacturing has a bad stereotype from an education or a career standpoint, because a lot of times it's known as being dirty and filthy, when that's not the case. I mean, if you get a chance to tour the new Lord Corporation facility up in Summit, I highly recommend it. It is not dirty whatsoever.
No, it's immaculate.
It's immaculate.
It's like an operating room.
And so part of it is changing that perception, you know, and obviously with an aging population, we're going to have a tremendous gap there. Specifically in the manufacturing side, if we're not able to show the benefits of being engaged in a manufacturing career to our young folks.
Okay, yeah, I've been there when they first took over, and it was immaculate when they took over, so it's become more immaculate. How do you think our area then compares to economic development opportunities and compared to other states? I know you just kind of said that, but let's not include South Carolina and Florida. Let's take just the region in your wheelhouse.
Well, I think we have to, you know, from a business attraction standpoint, step back and say, what are we good at? What do we really have to offer? If a company is coming in just because of incentives, we're not going to compete with Texas and South Carolina and Alabama. We just don't have those. But not only do they go away, those companies often go away when those incentives end.
Absolutely.
And so we have to be really strategic in identifying what companies want to be here. Is it the natural resource base we have, with the agricultural, with wood products, with access to various trade lanes, being that some of the heaviest utilized rail comes right through here, the water level route for both CSX and NS. Is it port related? Do we have companies that want low cost gas? We obviously have that to offer in the area now, as part of the Marcellus shale boom. So we have to step back from an attraction standpoint and say, we don't want the companies that want the incentives. We want companies that have a strategic reason for being located here. Could even be supply chain. Or access to markets.
Well, I think Bush Industries is a prime example. After their incentive expired, they went by.
They left.
Yeah.
We don't want companies like that. We want companies that want to establish a presence here and grow that presence, and are going to be here for the long haul.
Good, good. Again, this is Katrina Smith, and Katrina is the President and the Chief Executive Officer of DevelopErie, and we are talking about a whole bunch of things that maybe you didn't know a whole lot about DevelopErie and what exactly it does do. It does way more than you probably first imagined. You got 30 seconds to sum up. Choose your camera, that one or that one.
Oh my.
30 seconds.
End of the day, DevelopErie is retrenching, but we are still open for business, and we are going to be here in the long run. And we're going to focus back on our core competencies that we do well, and that's real estate development, brownfield revitalization, business financing, and grant management. And we are open for business and want to facilitate and play a role in various projects and initiatives across the community where we can provide value.
Well said.
Thank you, Phil.
Thanks for being with us.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks for being with us. And thank you for being with us. I'm Phil Fatica. Until next time, take care.
You're watching the Millcreek Government Channel, powered by WQLN Public Media.